Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told the lie, then I told my family. I had to keep lying.
But sure, I mean, is it deemed?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Angie Erickson, for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Pointer Lover and Melanie. Bella's here. Zoe, Adrian. Thanks, everyone. Johnny's here. How's everything sounding, my sound guy? Everything good so far? So we are doing part 3 of the Chris Watts FBI interview. House Huddle is here. Good to see you. Eddie, everyone else being here, thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys. Hi, Sweet Crazy. Jay's here. Yay. Can everybody just hit the thumbs up? I know the Karen Reed trial still going on. Marshall Dove's here. Bubba. Oh, Florida Bass is in the house. All right. Thanks so much, guys. So we are on part 3. We want to start the show off with a little remembrance of the victims in this case. So I will be sharing my screen to show you a Facebook video that Shanann posted on March 8th, 2018. They're in the doctor's office, waiting for the doctor to come in, just killing time, being silly, the girls. And this is before she knew she was pregnant with Nico, and definitely before she announced it, obviously. So we will watch this first and then get into August 14th. That is the day of the interview that we are covering right now.
Stop.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get stitches in my hand in a second. I'll get it. I'll get it. Stay. You're welcome.
Stay, Daddy.
Try to get a thick part of my hair.
Can I do it here?
No, honey, do Daddy's.
Daddy's the guinea pig today, okay? Oh my gosh, you see. Oh my gosh.
Mama, help me.
You do it.
You do it.
You got it.
You got it, see. Just don't go through my skull. She's shaking.
Here, go.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you getting it?
One. I want to take it.
You getting it, B?
Yeah. I want to hear the
Sit down, baby. Sit down.
I want Daddy here.
Jeez, please, kid. Sit down.
Cece, I'm in a small chair so you can have better height.
Stay. I want.
After you do Daddy's hair.
Oh,
I got it.
Nice. That was a good one. That was a good clip. Cece, you don't have to put so much pressure.
Yeah, Daddy.
You just, there you go. Good job.
There. I doing. My picture.
I got a picture.
You're harder.
I'm getting a picture.
You're harder. You're harder.
I'm getting the picture.
Harder.
I got the
You're
picture.
harder.
No, look. Mommy got the picture.
Yeah.
Do Daddy's hair. She wants to make sure I'm getting a picture.
There you go.
Hey, sit down.
Sit down, Cece.
All right. So that was in March that year, just a couple months before they all pass away. One thing that I just noticed in that video that I never noticed before is Chris calls CCC and he calls Bella B at one point. And yet we know when he's given the drone photo of Servy, the oil tanks, that's exactly how he labels all the locations that they're at. So he puts a C and a B on the oil tanks. I just kind of noticed that. Super, super freaky. Chris appears to be a good father in a lot of these videos. So sad and disgusting what he did. Right. And I'm under the belief that other people are involved, but it ultimately falls on Chris because he introduced these people into their life. And that's just my theory and opinion. Okay, so like I said, this interview that we're going to be looking at is August 14th. There was something else that I wanted to share with you guys that I kind of just discovered as well. Give me a second. This isn't the page. Okay, so I don't know. I never really dug deeply into Shanann's friends. And when I mean that, I just mean their statements and stuff about their perception of everything that was going on. I really spent a lot of time with Chris's coworkers and, just Chris in this case, and obviously Shanann. But there was something that stood out for me in this interview with Cassie, Shanann's friend. And it kind of goes along with my theory of the explosion theory. So brace yourselves for those who are not familiar with it. I won't dig too deeply into it tonight. I do have a live stream that kind of covered it. But for those who know about the explosion theory, this will kind of relate to what you guys know then too. And let me know what you guys think. So we ended up falling down a rabbit hole. And when I say we, some subscriber who watches my videos had some questions about the realtor. And we were just digging into the discovery separately and kind of talking in the comment section. And then this is where I found this part. I asked Cassie if she knew anything of Chris and Shanann considering selling their house. Cassie told me that in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is the weekend getaway that she went to for her MLM, Shanann mentioned that Chris had oil field in sight and knew wells were going to be drilled around the area of their housing area. This will cause their value to drop. And Shanann said Chris wanted to sell the house before the wells were drilled. Shanann said that they themselves were not worried about living near oil wells. She says she loves her home and she did not want to leave it. Cassie told Shanann to talk to Chris about it, blah, blah, blah. So yes, they end up, contacting Ann Meadows, the realtor. But my whole thing is Chris kind of speaking about the oil wells that were drilled near houses, which is exactly what happened to that house that exploded the year prior. There were oil wells near this house. It was a cracked pipe, which is just like it was at Servy 319 that he was, racing out to get there Monday morning where the bodies are found. And yeah, exactly, Jay. I really think so. I really do. There's so much little things that trickle around. So if you don't believe in the explosion theory, you're supposed to tell me that Chris is just talking about an explosion. And when I say that, the house that exploded the year prior was due to a leak in an oil well, a crack. So he's already in the know of things like that can happen. So yes, oh my gosh, House Huddle, you took the words right out of my mouth. And remember when Chris is in the prison interview and he mentions checking the pipes. How's the pipes or something like that? And everyone's like, what is he talking about? Is there evidence down there? Because forensic units, they do swab pipes and stuff like that at crime scenes. So to me, this was just more evidence to go along with my theory that, Chris was in the know of an explosion. And the family whose house exploded in 2017, they made out with millions of dollars with a wrongful death lawsuit. And it was just, I know we've talked about life insurance. Hey, Tony and everyone else who's joined, Carol freaking Claus, Cindy. I know we've talked about the life insurance that they had on the girls and Shanann, and that being a significant amount. But what really would have been the real moneymaker, Rebecca, good to see you. So glad you're here. What really would have been the moneymaker would have been suing Anna Darko for whatever would have taken place. Yes, Jay, I do. And there was actually a part in Troy McCoy's interview, which is a coworker of Chris, where he talks about how they were having a lot of safety meetings because of that house that exploded. So it was stuff that was going on. They were in the know of like, okay, this can happen if these fracking wells crack. And it's just a freak accident that took place, but it was due to the negligence of Anna Darko that happened. And we know that they were asked to put cameras out at the oil wells in sites, and they never did. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that Chris was having a conversation with Shanann about, their market, their house value and all that will go down, and that they're, doing all this building near their house with oil wells. So again, just something that kind of, for me, solidifies my theory that this is much more than a guy who wanted to get rid of his family so he could be with their mistress. This has a lot more to do with money being a motivation, etc. So I just thought that was interesting. This is where we left off last time. Yes, I do, Cindy. I think he was. I think a very small circle was. The leak was NK's job to fix. Yeah, she was in health and safety. She knew all about the leak. Absolutely. And let's not forget, even though it was a disorderly conduct charge and a DUI charge, she has a criminal background. So, I mean, just saying. Not that everybody who has DUI charges and stuff like that will turn out to be something horrible, but I'm just stating it's not out of the realm of possibility that she would be wrapped up in some scheme. And remember, she's looking up what was Amber Fry's book deal, Amber Fry's net worth. She talks to Agent Kobach about, well, I'm going to need to sell my car now. Like, there was very much a need for money for NK. She says stuff to Chris in their text messages about how she's not being paid enough. And he says, yeah, you definitely deserve more, like all this stuff. So it's just, in my mind, all connected. All righty. So I agree. He wanted to evaluate his economic class. I feel he valued and wanted material things over family. Yeah. And remember, he's looking up some new Audi SUV. And that's the thing, is it was the Audi's version of their Lexus SUV. So sort of a family car, which is why I feel the kids were not a part of his plan. But they were collateral damage. Saw too much, knew too much. He didn't follow through with the plan. So that's what ended up happening, sadly. That's, of course, my theory. I'll link in chat the explosion plan live stream we did. It's not something that I'm going to dig into every single live. Like, people ask me for another live on it. Like, it's exhausting to explain. So I'll just keep sharing the link to that. So let's just listen to this interview. This is where we left off. This is part 3.
It honestly just makes me sick to my stomach, because this is something that I would never do. ever. I know, like, you have to look at every vantage point. This is something I would never do to my kids or my wife at all. I'm not sure, like, what I could do to make people believe that, just because if they knew we were having marital discord, they would automatically look at me. But there's no, I would harm anybody in my family at all. I know we were having marital discord, and we had that conversation that morning, and then she goes, we have no idea where she is, or the kids. I promise you that I had nothing to do with any of that.
Are you telling me the truth?
I'm telling you the absolute truth.
Why should I believe you?
Because I'm a very trustworthy person, and the people that do know me, they know how I'm a calm person. I am not an argumentative person. I am a person who is never going to be abusive or physical in any kind of relationship. I would never harm my kids. I would never harm my wife. I mean, you can talk to any of my friends, any of her friends. They know me. They know I'm a low-key guy that's quiet. I'm not about confrontation. I'm not about anything that elevates to that level. I mean, you can, like, if someone yells at me, screams at me, I just take it, and I just try to get it by the wayside and get it back to where it's just a cool conversation, to where, like, none of that gets to that height, because I am not that person. I've never been that person.
And what's really convincing about him here, trying to play it off like, oh, I'm such a good guy, like, you can believe me, is everybody that knew Chris, co-workers, friends, lifelong friends he knew, when he was a child, have all said, this can't be. Even Shanann's friends were like, there's no way, he's such a nice guy. We don't believe it. Frank Sr. says something in his interview like, there's no way. I mean, you guys need to be looking somewhere else. Something along those lines, not an exact quote. So it almost sounds very convincing the way he's saying this, because I think for the majority of Chris's life, he was that nice guy. He was somebody who, he had like one speeding ticket, never in trouble in school. He graduated with honors for his college. Was a top mechanic, respected in the mechanic world and in the oil field world, and just all around, like we've seen in that video in the beginning with the kids and Shanann. He looked like the typical dad. Hey, Roxanne, good to see you. The, neighbor that you can trust. But something happened. That's why it goes back to the catalyst of all this, in my opinion, is NK. He didn't have to follow her lead, but I do believe that he's a follower. And the sex and the thrill of whatever they had planned, whatever outcome and dream that they envisioned with money or whatever at the end of all this, freedom, I think that swept Chris up, and he morphed, because he's very much a chameleon. He morphed into somebody in NK's world. Yeah, even Bella says it. NK changed him, and he got involved with NK's friends, starts with a J, and yeah, people in their circle. He is a follower. Yeah, pair of sickos. Yeah. Chris was the clean front of the conspiracy. Right. And so many, and I wonder if Coder here, I know, knows that he's lying about things, they know about NK at this point. But I do think that Coder is sort of he's confused a little bit because he does sound so truthful at times, but we know that the kids in Shanann are not alive probably at this point.
Okay. You can imagine it's my job, okay? And I told you that tonight, we would talk about things and might offend you, you know that we have to get to the bottom of this. You know that?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you take a polygraph?
Sure.
Okay. Would you take it tonight?
If that's what you want me to do. Okay. I've never done one. I don't know, like.
And isn't this interesting that after Chris gives this whole, I'm a nice guy, you can trust me, you can believe me, I've never been this type of person to do anything wrong like this. Then Coder asks, would you take a poly? Because I think Coder he's confused, I think. I think he knows this guy's involved, but something's not right. There's more to this. Wonder if he'll take a poly. What do you guys think would have happened if Agent Coder gave him the polygraph instead of Tammy?
Involved, but
you know where it is?
From what I've seen, it goes on your finger.
You know what the purpose of one is?
It's for a lie detector test.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we do this? Let's take a little break. I'm going to come back in here because I have a lot more questions for you. Okay. I want to remind you that tonight is voluntary. Okay. I can't keep you in here. I won't keep you in here. If you want to get right up and walk out of here, you can do that, okay? All right. Do you want to keep talking with me?
I mean, I can.
Okay.
I mean...
And House Huddle says, and see right here separates him from Scott Peterson. Scott knew not to take it. From what I remember, he agreed that he would. And then his lawyer was like, no, don't. But I could be wrong. I could be remembering it wrong. I'd have to, rewatch his interrogation too. And what's also interesting about Scott's is he went down there day one and went in for the interview. They brought him in day one. This is day 2 of the investigation, and they finally get Chris in. So that is also a huge difference. Chris is barely tethered to his body. In reality, he was the perfect patsy. NK, the perfect honey trapper. She had 0 plans to continue the relationship, whether she got caught or not. She was done. And I totally agree. I think she liked the attention he gave her, but she's not the type to go for a guy like long-term with Chris, in my opinion. She would have dropped him. I think he would have been more nervous. Yeah, they should have just done it right away. Like right here tonight.
That's what you want. I can keep talking.
Okay. And you understand that I'm not arresting you right now. You understand that you can walk out of here at any time.
Sure.
Okay. Having said that, I do want to talk to you. I have a lot more questions for you.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So I know House Huddle has dug into both cases on her channel. If you guys haven't checked it out, Scott Peterson and Chris, in a very interesting analysis. Like, she covers things from different angles that we might have thought about, but really didn't say out loud in these chats. Like, very, very interesting perspective over on this channel, House Huddle. She says Scott did agree to take it, and then his lawyer advised him not to. And isn't it interesting also, Scott lawyers up, Chris does not.
Do you know where your wife is?
I don't know where my wife is. I'm telling you the absolute truth.
Okay.
I don't know where my wife is. I'm telling the absolute truth.
Let's take a tiny break. Get some water. Do you need to use the restroom?
No.
Okay. There's some water or Gatorade actually if you need it. I'm going to step out for a minute. I need to look over some of my notes. I'm going to come right back in here. I'm not going to be out very long, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'll be right back.
Also interesting when we see Chris sort of by himself at times like these. I feel like when he was like that in Tammy's interview, he was like tapping his leg and stuff. I could be wrong. What do you guys remember of that? But here he's very just still, no movement. Yeah, Bella says NK would have dumped Chris after a while. Oh, thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. And you're so welcome. We have a lot to dig through. This is only his first interview. Oh, really, Justice Queen? But we'll definitely get into that one. Much longer than this one. I agree, Tony. Way more tense with Tammy. Yep, I agree, Debbie. For a smart guy, he was pretty dumb, no street smart. And that's so true. So he takes a lie detector the next morning, right? Maybe he didn't know where the girls or Shanann were at this point. Probably not, but maybe you are on sort of the same wavelength I am. Him being extremely calm here, him being so sure when he says, I don't know where Shanann is right now. This is also the day that he did that porch interview, if I'm remembering correctly. Which sort of seemed like he was begging for them to be returned, specifically the children. He kind of leaves out Shanann a little bit in that interview. He says something like, I wish they would come barreling through the door and hug me, talking about the kids. So without a time of death and without going by the theory that the district attorney is spinning, I think that we have to keep that possibility open that maybe he didn't know exactly their location. And this is strictly if you believe others are involved, that this theory would apply. And so I think that that's a possibility for sure. And hi, Tim. Good to see you. Miranda says, I think at this moment, he still thinks he can get away with it. House Huddle says, the only way to me his calmness makes any sense is for him to genuinely think that the girls at the very least were still alive at this point. Right there with you. And I think over time, people looking at this case are more open to that theory being a possibility solely based on the fact that the district attorney had already backtracked his theories to begin with. He said they all died in the house. And then once we found the shadows of him picking up the girls and putting them in the truck, he was like, oh, well, yeah, they were actually still alive. And then, just all these other questions people have in this case, I think people are more open to the idea of like, yeah, you're right. We don't have a time of death. I mean, that is vital when you're looking at a murder investigation. They just couldn't determine it because of the oil. And they never got to have their own experts look at things. So the state did the autopsies and all that. The defense never got their own experts to do a second autopsy or their own analysis. And hello, Missy. Good to see you. So it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, I guess we really don't know what time all this went down. Tony says, I think he thought the girls were going to be okay at this point. I could definitely see that. Stasia says, considering the fact that he bathed the girls the night before makes it clear to me the girls were not supposed to be part of it. Yeah, that, and on top of CDT and I find the backpacks that he packed for them for school. So many different things that it's circumstantial and it's how we are perceiving the information that we're given. Other people don't see it that way. So it's like, whose theory is correct? We just don't know. That's the reason why I think he was tricked with the girls. He may be thinking Shanann would never be found and the girls would be coming back at this time. I think so. I think it's possible. You have to leave it open. There is a reason this case doesn't sit well with anyone that has gone beyond the surface. Exactly. If you go beyond the Netflix movie, if you go beyond any mainstream media show on this case, you start to realize like, wait a minute, that's not accurate. In fact, an example of that, since we're still waiting for Coder to get back into the room, I might fast forward this part. In the mainstream media shows on this, investigative series, Lifetime stuff, all that stuff that has come out, they keep sowing this idea that law enforcement didn't know where the girls were until Chris labeled that paper and they were able to recover them. That is not true. If you go through the discovery pages, and we've done it before, it clearly states that that drone footage that they were using found the shallow grave. They were up walking on the catwalk through the in between the oil tanks. Like, I believe that they knew the girls were in there. It states in the discovery previously located. There's just so many things that we can see, but yet mainstream media keeps spinning it as, well, no, this is that. And that's not how it happened. The mainstream media also keeps saying that Chris confessed to everything the night he got arrested. That's also not true. Once you watch the interview and the interrogation, you see that he only admitted to killing Shanann and said that Shanann killed the girls. Even though we know that that's not true, it was still wrong for the media to spin it as father confesses to it all, especially when there's a mistress involved. So before the media, even the mainstream media and the public even knew there was a mistress, they've already been told that this guy confessed to killing everybody. He's picking his nose. Bubba says, I wonder if that's why the girls were put in the oil tanks, to hide them, to hide time of unalive. How cold, yeah, is the oil in oil tanks? Just a thought. Yeah. It's like a mixture of water and oil in there. And it was pretty hot still. Like, we see that, Chris is in flip-flop shirt and t-shirt, shorts and t-shirt. I think that removing DNA and evidence from them by putting them in an oil is definitely a possibility. And that would only be known by somebody who, was closely worked with oil, in my opinion. Yes, please hit the thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. All right, guys. He's been sitting in here for a while. I'm assuming Coder's being talking to people in the other room. Should we give him the poly? What should we do? Oh, let's call Tammy CBI tomorrow and have her do it. Looks like he's like picking a scab here or something. All right, let's fast forward. Wow, he was left in there for a while. Look at him. He barely even moves out of this position.
We'll have everyone else. I'm just going to keep this room for a little bit longer. So just shuffle people through the other rooms. All right. How you feeling?
Looking at that picture. Find him. God. Those shoes, even though they were winter shoes.
They were what?
Winter shoes.
Those are her boots, aren't they?
Shanann was gonna sell them off to like that Facebook Marketplace, and she had them on the windowsill there. And when we got back from North Carolina, the SEC saw them sitting over there, and she proceeded to take them back and wear them every day since they got back. No matter if it was 100 degrees outside or what, she loved those shoes. She always loves those shoes. And Bella, she always wore some flip-flops. She always will. She's just like, she loved that.
And he's talking about Shanann, Cece, and Bella all in past tense. Shanann was going to sell those on Facebook Market. Cece loved those boots. Bella loved to wear flip-flops. So it's kind of like, is it something or is it nothing?
dress. She loves those flip-flops. Cece loves that dress. She likes the buttons on the back.
Is Cece short for something?
Celeste.
Celeste. Bella and Celeste. Tell me about them.
BNC. Celeste. She's Rampage. She's always the one that's gung-ho. She's always the one that's just like, she's off. She's either go or sleep. She's always the one growling. She's always been, she's a tiger.
And yet now he's talking about Cece in present tense. She's always the one on the go. She's always the tiger. She's always, so just noteworthy. Past and present tense is being used. And if I'm confused by it and we're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm sure Coder is noting it too. Like, okay, he used past tense. Now he's using present tense. You know, we're just getting a feel for what's going on here. Tony says, I think NK and company harmed the girls. Shanann, I'm not sure 100% yet. Yeah, it is strange. It's confusing. I believe he didn't know where the kids were because, my opinion, NK handled it all and her people. A lot of people have that opinion, and I'm open to it.
Bella, she's the calm, the mothering one. She's the one that's always, you okay? You okay? You fine? Okay. She's just the sweetest little girl. She's the one that favors me more, and Celeste is the one that favors Shanann more.
Still using present tense when describing them, though.
The way I look at it, you see some baby pictures of me and Bella, it's just like, boom, the other way around.
So when you say favorite, do you mean look like?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Are they both daddy's girl?
That one is.
Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it?
It's because the first one I wasn't really good at it yet. Second one I knew what I was doing, and she bonded with me right from the start.
Yeah.
I agree, Bubba. He is all over the place. Coder has to notice that. Yeah. And I think that might have to do with why maybe they wanted Tammy to, because he was like, I only got so far with this guy. I need somebody to kind of play this bad cop. And that's the thing. He could be using present tense to cover it up. So he started with past tense and he's thinking, oh, I should talk about them in present form so they don't think it's suspicious. But is Chris that smart? I just don't know if he's that savvy. If you think about that, though, and Kessinger being involved, then it would make sense that she would be responsible for Cece, and then Chris finds it difficult to be the one responsible for Bella. Yeah, Sandy is doing her cooking shows again. Yep. So if you guys go over to Sandy Rusek's channel, she's got her cooking back up. I think he's not sure if they are alive or not at this time. Yeah. And that's why he's bouncing in between present and past tense, because he's like, should I accept that they're gone? No, I can't. You know, they're still here with us. It's possible, guys.
I remember when they wore that dress. She just wore that dress.
I agree, Bubba.
I unbuttoned the back of it so I could get her pajamas on. She's like, no, Daddy, button. I got button. I got button. And Bella loves those spaghetti strap dresses. She likes long dresses. She was a girly girl. Always. Cece is just like, I always like tried to put her on a Supergirl t-shirt and she loved it. Every time. Cece always be smiling though. Bella, you have to like really kind of, like, you want some gum? She said you want some gum. She was been looking in this picture. I think she's always just smiling at the camera. to find him, right? I need your help. You gotta find him. You gotta find Shanann. It's the picture somebody sent me.
And he starts off with, you're going to find them, right? After talking about the girls. You got to find them. And Shanann. See, Shanann is always an afterthought. Same with when he did the porch interview. If you listen to his verbiage, we've gone through it before. It's on my playlist. He does the same thing. I wish, they would come through the door and barrel hug me, blah, blah, blah. All about the kids. And Shanann, if you're out there, come home. And it's like, she's always like a second thought. So those are times where I think that he's thinking like, oh, I better make it seem like I care about my wife too. But it comes off more like fluently when he's speaking about the kids, in my opinion.
Whereas side by side of Bella and Celeste and Shanann, as opposed to like one of the news companies.
Okay.
This is the picture they use of the girls.
All right. Were you thinking about anything while I stepped out?
I would have to agree, and I know it's not a popular opinion. House Tuttle says, in my opinion, this marriage was over long before Kessinger ever showed up. I think that they were drifting apart for sure. I think that they were stuck in this mundane, like routine, husband, wife, take care of the kids, work, pay bills. And they became distant from each other. And I think, this is just my opinion, and it's not to shame her, I think when Shanann joined Thrive, that MLM, she changed. I think she was more about, the home life and all that before she joined that MLM. And then sometimes success changes people. And I think that she found her groove. She found her people. She found a company that appreciated her. I mean, they put her in their magazine and stuff like that. I think that she started creating an identity outside of the household. And again, I'm not shaming her. I'm just saying, I just think she did that because Chris was distant and just, very much into his routine of work, pay bills, take care of the kids. And they just started drifting apart. And then it put even more of a rift between them when she found people that she, was happy to be around. Yeah, they were constantly on camera and Chris didn't like that. That was another thing, but he never could speak up. So because he could never speak up, I just think that the resentment built up inside him. I think so too, Jay. He pushed her away. Him just being, she'd said things in text message with him and friends like, we just along the lines of like there being no like spark between them and stuff. But then at the same breath, she was telling people that they couldn't keep their hands off each other before she went to North Carolina. So I think Chris was very much wishy-washy and didn't know what he wanted and thought that when he met NK, he had found everything he wanted. Yes, that's a good way to put it. She found herself and her identity. Meanwhile, he lost his. This was the identity crisis, in my opinion. Yes. And then he decides, I'm going to take on a new identity with this amazing woman who I met. And she's so adventurous. She likes to go hiking, everything Shanann doesn't like. And he thought, that's what I need, somebody opposite of what Shanann is. She kind of wanted to branch out as a momfluencer. She definitely would have made it on YouTube and TikTok. Yes, she would have left Chris behind. I think so too. And judging by her interview with that lawyer at, her discussion that she had with that divorce lawyer that she happened to kind of run into at a restaurant when she was with her friend, kind of insinuates to me that she was doing her homework. Like, okay, if we do get divorced here in Colorado, what can I expect? She didn't seek that lawyer out. It was just by happenstance that they were there. And he comes forward during the investigation, says, I think I talked to this woman a couple months ago, and she was very much ready for a divorce. So I think that Shanann was, had options available. Oh, thank you, Jody. I'm doing good. I'm in my second trimester, so things are much better than the first, I guess, the best way to explain it. Yes, I got that Amber past tense. Yeah.
So much I want to see these two girls and my wife again. Just I want them to come home.
I mentioned that when children go missing in the FBI, it's a lot like you see in the movies. We like to get every single one of our resources. We like to call every agent and wake them up out of bed, call them back from vacation. We just really like to put a full force in. Is that something that you're comfortable supporting?
Yeah.
Okay. That means that I want to have as many eyes, as many hands, as many investigators, as many evidence people as we can possibly get looking at your house.
Okay.
Can we do that right this minute?
Up to.
Okay.
I'll stay out of the way if you want.
Okay. That's usually best. For you, for us, for everyone. Okay.
You want me to go stay at my friend's house then?
Is that an option?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're still outside. I'm not sure or not, because
All right.
I don't have my phone.
Oh, I forgot to ask you about your phone.
Yeah, I'll have my I didn't have to take one here anyways.
Okay.
But, concrete block.
So, what I might do then is in, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, I might just step out for a very quick break and just say, guys, let's go in that house right now.
2385.
You did tell me that, and I did write it. The garage is 2385?
The front door.
The front door, 2385, and that latch or whatever is not going to get in our way?
It should be unlatched.
Okay, good. All right.
If it is, just call me.
Now, when they go in there, I want them to run a black light over everything. I want them to collect DNA. I want them to look for hair strands and DNA samples, and I want them to look at your stuff and your wife's stuff and your children's stuff and the garage stuff and the car stuff, all of it.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any problems with that? Okay.
So he has no problem with a forensic analysis of, the house and all that. Mind you, he had already spent the night cleaning it. And we know that because when they go in for the dog search and stuff like that on the second day, they mention it smells like bleach and cleaning products. So a problem. But at the same time, he very much was very cooperative. Even on day one, before he could go in there and clean, he signed over search warrants and all that, let them go through it all. I'm due in October. So in the middle to end of October, Melanie. Another creator had mentioned that Shanann's family had received a lot of money, donations, etc. Not said in a bad way, but I saw her family has a GoFundMe for a lawyer for a case they filed in the UK. Yes, all that is explained on Frankie Jr.'s YouTube channel. So I can't really speak on it because I just don't know all the ins and outs, but they have been bullied online and are seeking damages. Yeah, I think they saw quickly how he submitted to women more, and that's why they brought in Tammy. I think so too. Yep. Agree. He's not worried about all that because nothing happened at the house except possibly an ambush on Shanann, in my opinion. Agree, Tony. So he's like, sure, go ahead. Search it. Do what you got to do. Here's some items of the girls. Oh, this is another, if Stasia is still listening. Here's another thing that kind of gives away the fact that the girls weren't in the plan, in my opinion. He lets them take items of the girls for the dogs to sniff, and they asked for shoes. And he says, well, I have these shoes of theirs, but they're drying out back on the porch because Sunday, the day prior, they got all wet at a birthday party with water balloons. So not only does he bathe the girls, but he puts their shoes outside to dry. If he had plans to get rid of his children, why would he bother drying their sneakers out? Do you guys know that Shanann put those kids to bed at 6:30, plus naps from noon to 3, plus daycare all day? I didn't know this until a recent deep dive. Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with their deaths. She decided to raise her children that way. And, I would love it if my kid could go to bed at 6:30. The naps from noon till 3, my daughter would nap. I mean, I used to go live when she would nap. That's how long she would nap for. Daycare all day. I do think that was a bit much, only considering Cece was so young, but they had other kids Cece's age at daycare too. So I think the problem with daycare all day was it put a financial strain on them, which was an issue. Finances was an issue in their marriage. I think the way that she was raising her kids, I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with the murders. So I know that it's interesting for people to kind of deep dive, and I've deep dived into a lot of things, and I've said over and over, I don't know if I would have been friends with Shanann. I don't know. In fact, I know this now. There's things that she did as a mother that I don't do, but ultimately, it is what it is. It had nothing to do with why they met their demise. The idea that family vlogging is what caused Chris to involve himself in such a thing makes no sense to me. I think he was interested in what he could gain and how he could quickly improve his finances. Agree.
So then I want them to do that sooner than later. I might step out here in a minute and just tell them the code and just let them know, guys, let's find how we can get these girls, okay? Can we keep talking about some complicated things? Sure. Some things that are going to make you uncomfortable? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And I think you know why I have to ask them, okay? And hard job. It's a hard job. It is a hard job. And I'm going to ask you one thing, and you're going to give me an answer, and I'm going to ask it just a slight bit different, and you're going to give me an answer, and then about 10 iterations of this, you might get annoyed, but I do have to make sure that we understand each other. Okay, is that all right? Yeah. Okay. So we have your daughters who are missing, we have your wives who's missing, okay? And that's the most important thing right now, okay? Do you agree with that? Yes. Okay. So you've done very good in talking to me about this really hard conversation you guys had, okay? Very good. That's sometimes hard. And I understand why sometimes someone in your position says, doesn't want to tell me about that. Because please go help me find my kids, and you don't need to know about my marriage argument, okay? So I got to say, you've done very good at that, and I need you to keep doing that. So I need to ask you about your marriage and infidelity. Sure. Okay, tell me about it.
I have never cheated on my wife.
Okay.
And I fully suspect she has never done that to me.
Oh, okay.
Like, she's always been a trustworthy person. I've always been a trustworthy person. I fully expect if we ever thought about straying another way, that we would tell each other before it happened.
I think that sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
Because in the history of the earth, nobody ever does that.
Okay. I just, that's what I would like to think.
Yeah. And see how easy it is for him to lie? He was almost saying it in the same tone and the same way that he was when he was saying I'm a good guy. I would never harm them. And why the heck, why would you tell your spouse that you were going to cheat on them?
Okay.
I mean, I know mistakes happen, like,
Sure.
Yeah, but that's what and
Yes, thank you, Florida. Thank you for saying that. Just remember, none of you in here were perfect parents, and no one deserved to get murdered. No matter what Shanann was doing, and that's the thing is people, oh, she had Munchausen by proxy. First off, she was never diagnosed with it, and you guys aren't doctors, so you can't diagnose it either. But if she did have it, doesn't that just mean that she had a disorder that she probably could have used help for? So because she has some disorder, everyone's like, oh, she's terrible. It's like if any other disorder, you don't call the person terrible. You empathize like, oh, wow, I hope you get help for that, or I hope you're seeking help. But once it's pointed out that she could possibly have something, she's a terrible person. They just want to jump on people, even the dead. And you know what else I've noticed too is the family has continued to blame Shanann for everything. And so people on the internet, they've decided to pick sides.
in my head, that's what I would think would happen. I would hope would happen.
Okay.
But
Now, even though I think that sounds ridiculous, if I was in your shoes, I'd say the exact same thing. And I believe that. Okay? But I kind of don't. And you can imagine in my job, I meet all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine that there are people who have Saturdays with their girlfriends and Sundays with their wives.
Okay.
Right? And they consider themselves to be very virtuous people. Okay? So, with that in mind, I don't care if there's been anything in your relationship. I just don't. And I'm not going to tell the news, and I'm not going to tell anyone, but I do need to know. So, is there anyone that you think that maybe your wife got close with?
If she did, it was very secret then if that was the case, because I had no inkling at all. No, okay. It wasn't even a suspicion.
Okay, not one guy or girl.
If that was the case, I didn't have one suspicion about it. If it happened, it wasn't even I wasn't aware.
Nothing.
There was no clue. There was no texting with.
Yes, here's another good comment, Miranda. Sadly, we can't say if Shanann was a bad mother because none of her kids made it to adulthood to see the results of her parenting. Exactly. No matter what Shanann did wrong in their marriage, she didn't deserve to be unalived. Nobody does. Exactly. Something about his response bothers me as well because, in my opinion, it almost sounds like he's questioning if law enforcement has discovered an affair on her part. Yeah. And I think Coder even says something like, what if I told you she was? So was that a tactic to get him to kind of be angry at Shanann and be like, yeah, you know what? I killed her. I thought the same, or I knew she was cheating, come to find out. Or is Coder, does he know something? And again, Sandy and everyone close to her keeps reiterating to this day, Shanann never cheated. But Troy McCoy spun that narrative with Anthony Brown in Anthony Brown's interview with the coworkers, and NK spun the narrative that she was cheating. I see the proof that the Ruseks are being harassed on the internet is in my Facebook group that I run. And we try to get rid of the comments. They're in all the Facebook groups. They're in all the comments. I see them even in my comments that I delete. They blame the family. Jay says, I've seen that a lot on YouTube. There's something, in my opinion, even in her family, they may not know anything about that. Right. And who's going to admit it too? Like if the daughter who was killed, was cheating, they're not going to say yes. she did, but don't shame her for it. It's like obviously something that they wouldn't come out and say. The actual evidence are people in Facebook groups and YouTube that harass the family. Yes, their harassment has been ridiculous. Yes. It's sad. I've seen it firsthand. I wouldn't say it if I didn't see it. So I'm not just trying to stick up for one family over the other. I've literally seen it.
The phone back, or I walk in, swipe type thing.
Yeah, I could see that too, House Huddle. In my opinion, they are trying to protect her reputation now because they could not protect her from this horrible crime. Right. And I don't blame them.
I didn't really have any of that.
Okay. No perfume when she's going out with the girls.
She always smells. She always sprays something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that. It wasn't
Perfume.
like that 1 in a million perfume or something like that.
Yeah, it might have been an emotional cheating through spicy texting, maybe even flirting with somebody on these MLM trips. Have you guys ever heard the phrase my work husband or my work wife? It's like somebody at your work in the opposite sex who, you might work well with and you are a good team together, and it's, oh, you're my work wife. And it's, we just don't know because we weren't there. I can't speak for Frankie Jr. You'd have to ask him that question.
No late nights that surprised you. Okay. Now let's talk about you. Okay. On your end.
Yes, I believe it was in Addie's. It was either in Addie's interview or Lauren's, where they say that Shanann was in the know of a work girlfriend. And we did a live stream on that in the past. It's on the playlist. Melanie says, yes, I have one. Yeah, I can only speak for myself. And that's why I said I seen the family being harassed and bullied firsthand on my channel and in my Facebook group on this case. We actually have a rule, do not bash the families. I know a lot of women who aren't good mothers. So I just think that everyone should look in the mirror and focus on their own parenting and not on somebody who's dead. Personally, I think that there's other things in this case to work and focus on. And the way that she was as a mom, I think it's the last thing that we should be looking at. It's not really part of the story, though, because that's your opinion that she wasn't a good mom. It might be part of your story on the case.
I gotta ask, what's her name?
I don't have another one.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
And there he does, Coder's asking about, and here's the thing. Why is people in chat derailing the conversation? Coder and Chris are speaking about an affair at this moment. That's who we should be focusing on. And that's the topic that we should be focusing on right now. Their conversation right here in this interview with the FBI agent about NK. And he's over here lying, saying, no, there's nobody else. And he's doing that Duper's delight laugh, I swear, there's nobody. That's who we should be looking at right now. So stop with this, oh, that leopard dress, she was a bad mother, blah, 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 blah. Look at this. Look what they're talking about right here. This is the guy who is responsible for her death. And they're discussing a mistress who was also involved very closely with everything going on, in my opinion. So I think that these moms in chat, if you're a mother, focus on yourself. I mean, where is your kids right now? Have you texted them and told them you love them today?
tell me if you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you tell me if you did? Meaning, cheat on Shanann. Yes. So quick, so easily, he can lie.
So, again, highly trained investigator over here, right? I see pictures of you from a few years ago, and I see you standing before me now. Okay, you've gotten pretty fit. Okay, you can imagine when guys start cheating or want to cheat, that's what happens.
Yes.
So tell me about it.
I did not cheat on my wife.
Okay.
Not Thrive helped me.
So I do think that Coder's angle here, like talking about his weight loss, like in a lot of cases that can be true. And I've seen it firsthand with people who met somebody at the gym even, and they start cheating and then they end up in a divorce and now they're together with that person that they met at the gym. So you start feeling good about yourself. This kind of goes back to the theories of they met at a gym possibly in 2017. I think that that's a really good chance. Especially since in NK's interview, she was talking about finding apartments for them. And she said, I found one that I wanted it to be close to his girls and to work in the gym. And it's like, wait, what gym? So already there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that point towards them maybe meeting at a gym. Chris started his weight loss journey before 2017. Like, I think it kind of started in 2016. That's when Shanann, I think, joined Thrive. But once he, gets down and the confidence and stuff, I think that had, like Coder said, a lot of times that can lead to an affair.
I went from 245 pounds to
about 245?
245 pounds.
And that's great, man.
Thank you. And I'm 185, 180 right now. And I've been eating cleaner, just trying to, the last little bit. Thrive has helped me a lot, but to maintain it and try to eat cleaner has really helped me as well.
Okay. And I've got to imagine that maybe there was a girl that inspired that?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Why are you falling out of love?
After the last 5 weeks, like being by myself and being able to be myself again. I couldn't be myself around Shanann anymore.
Why not?
I think that the marriage problems between Chris and Shanann have more to do with the outcome than her parenting. Like, I don't think Chris saw an issue with her parenting of the children. In fact, Chris tells Tammy that the nighttime routine was to give them the medicine every night. And he offers up that information as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Do I think that children should be given Benadryl and Tylenol PM at night? No, I don't. Not unless they're sick. But again, this goes back to nothing Shanann did as a parent deserved to be murdered over. Like, do people understand that, or they just get hung up on mistakes that she made as a human? Because nobody in this chat is perfect.
It was like I was walking just like walk on eggshells type thing.
And I do believe Chris was sort of like, couldn't relax around Shanann. She was, a handful. She's somebody that a specific person would be able to tolerate and handle. So even if I was a man, like I've said it as a female, I don't know if I would be friends with her if I met her in real life. As a man, would I have dated her? I don't think so. But that's just me. And that has nothing to do with she deserved to be married, to be murdered or not. It's just, that's her as a person. Chris probably wasn't the best mate for her. And she wasn't the best for Chris either, in my opinion. But that's nothing that a divorce couldn't have just solved. And yet it didn't end up that way because of the actions that Chris took.
It's kind of like you feel like you're always doing something that's wrong. It's like you feel like you're never like, does that make sense at all?
The timing doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. But like, it's like if you can't beat yourself.
And isn't it funny, like Coder just being flat out honest? Like Chris is saying, like, I just couldn't be myself and relaxed around her. And he's like, does that make sense at all? The timing doesn't make sense to me. So you're having marital problems and then your wife goes missing. And now you're just trying to rub it off as like, well, we were falling out of love, but I had nothing to do with this. Like Coder's absolutely right when he's like looking at him straight in the face. The timing doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm hearing what you're saying, dude, but for you to say all this and then act like you have nothing to do with any of things that are going on, it doesn't make sense.
Around your wife, who can you be yourself around?
Why couldn't you be yourself around your wife?
I just felt like I'd always have to change who I was because I was always about, I mean, I was doing the laundry, I do everything. Like, I do everything that I could for her, everything. And then, like, the last 5 weeks, I was just, you know, just being myself, just doing me. And I just thought to myself, like, one of my buddies, Mark, he lives out in San Diego, was like, one big test that he learned, like, he was divorced at one point, and he was like, so if you could picture yourself, like, if you could picture your wife and she was with someone else, would you get jealous? I was like, at this point I have to say no. And he was like, well, there's your answer. Like, if you love her, it would be a different answer.
When did you start falling out of love?
It wasn't in the last 5 weeks. It's been an ongoing process for probably about a year.
So I don't know. I sort of believe this, like falling out of love was going on for about a year. Does that coincide with when he met NK too? And mods, I appreciate you guys removing comments. And if you have to time people out, that's fine. But do not hide people from the channel, please. Because I like everyone to kind of tune or, you know, give us their opinions and stuff. But if you have to time them out, then that's fine. So here, him saying that, it, you know, they were falling out of love for about a year, it could coincide with them, NK and Chris meeting, in my opinion. In my opinion, these are very social issues that I don't understand why they aren't discussed more and talked about in a world of so connected. No one seems to know how to effectively communicate. And I think that Chris and Shanann definitely had communication issues. I think Chris in general has communication issues and pathological liar too. And that's fair, Cuddlebugs. Like I've gone down the route of looking at Shanann the way that people do. It just never brought me to why this happened. If anything, I think NK used the way that Shanann treated Chris as a way to put a wedge between them. Like, look at her. All she does is boss you around. She makes you do all the cleaning. She makes you put the kids to bed. She makes you bathe the kids. That's not fair. That's not fair. She put a wedge between you and your family. I think she spends all this money. She's home and she sends them to daycare. I think all that was used by NK to fuel the wedge between Chris and Shanann. She could be cheating on you. Look at her in these pictures with this guy on their MLM trips. You know, all that got in Chris's psyche and he's very weak. And I think that that kind of attributed to it, in my opinion. Because she's very manipulative. She's very conniving. She was stalking them. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you. She was stalking them virtually on Shanann's Facebook page. We know that from her phone records. So of course she's going in there and seeing their videos and saying, oh, look at how she lets the kids treat you. Look at how she is with this guy in this picture on all their trips. Like, I just think that it was very much used as a tool to manipulate Chris. NK couldn't be a mother because she lacks empathy. I think that made her hate Shanann more. I think she wanted, hi, Allison. Yeah, that, and yeah, she wanted everything that Chris and Shanann had in a lot of different ways. Chris is incapable of being honest with his own desires. Yes. NK made herself into everything Shanann was not, also made herself match up with Chris's interests, manipulation at its very finest. Yes. Chris was just so easy to manipulate. Totally agree. I think NK was making plans at least a year before anything happened. Yeah. And remember that house explosion took place a year before in April. She starts searching the family through her phone in, what was it, August? Yes, August, she searches Chris first.
Why? I just felt like everything that we had when we first started dating and met, like we met in 2010, everything, you know, a new relationship, spark, everything's hot, everything's great. Get married, everything's still great. And then, like, you know, people just fall out of love. And that's where I was. Like, I just felt like over the last year, I thought that, like, okay, maybe this is just like a phase. Maybe this, you know, like, just, you know, this is what happened. Like, you've been with somebody so long. Maybe, like, you know, the spark into there just reignited somehow, some way. But, you know, our conversations weren't the same. Like, when we were apart, like, everything was just like, you know.
Here we go with the likes being thrown in. Like. And he's trying to blame the distance between them on, oh, our communication, we just, you know, fell out of love. And this is what it happened after a few years. But really, he's covering up with the fact I met somebody and she's really cool. She doesn't have kids. She's got this hot body. She understands me. She likes to go hiking. We went to the races. So he's covering up all that. So that's why he starts throwing in this like, because that's what he does when he's so busy lying. And look at his face here. My God, he's always with this like creepy grin.
And it was just like, nothing felt right anymore. The disconnection was there, and it just never felt right anymore. But why?
I love Coder, just like, why? Timing doesn't make sense. And Chris keeps going back and forth. Like, it just didn't, you know, we were just falling out of love. We just weren't the same anymore. Why? But why? Like, he wants more. And Chris is going to start, look at him right now. He's got this like grin on his face. He's like, because it was just, we just fell apart. We grew apart, blah, blah, blah. Gathering Place asked, wasn't Chris his first girlfriend, first sex? No. Chris, in my documentary, has pictures with somebody at prom. So he had a prom date. He dated somebody. He talks about it with in the prison interview with all of them, that she was just getting out of divorce and she used Chris as rebound. So Chris talked about that girl. And then when the case broke, I cannot remember her name, but this other girl came out and she was like, I dated him for a while before he ever met Shanann. So no, Shanann was not his first, like he wasn't a virgin. In college, his college roommate said that he really was like focused more on studies than girls, which I think is odd, but he still was like, you know, went out with them drinking and would like, you know, talk to girls. But he never really had like a college girlfriend that like he brought back to the roommates to meet and stuff like that. But I think, I don't know. It's just, it was a new girl. NK was a new girl. So I don't know. Yeah, NK probably blew him out of the water. He was hooked on the thrill of the roller coaster. Yes, I think so too. And actually, I think, yeah, the brown bikini and, you know, Johnny, you're being summoned by Christina, Johnny. And Johnny has expressed many times that NK used her sexuality to seduce Chris and to control Chris. And I will say that my brother, like I've talked to him about this case and he sort of had said the same thing, like, oh, this new girl and the new sex and everything being new. Chris himself even says it. Everything was new. Yeah, fairies are extremely dangerous emotionally. Yes, sex 6 times a day. She's nuts. Did Did NK get her bikini from UPS? Right? I mean, truthfully, has anybody gone to the beach this summer yet and seen a girl in a brown bikini? Because I've not seen it yet. Yeah, well, that's the thing is like guys, some of them are like, oh, yeah, she was beautiful. Others say, like, no, her face. It's hard because, you know, I am attracted to men. So, but still, I know a good looking girl when I see one. And Shanann, to me, was better looking. But I guess that's not what it's always about. There was other things that NK used to get Chris's attention. You know, she's, oh, I like cars too. I like races. I like hiking.
It wasn't there. Like, I just didn't feel it. Like, it was like I didn't have that passion anymore.
Why not?
I really couldn't. I can't tell you. Like,
He just keeps trying to explain, like, I know he's such a dope. He keeps trying to explain, like, oh, was she, you know, we just fell out of love. And again, Coder, but why not? Can you imagine trying to explain something to somebody and they keep asking why, but why over and over, and you keep like trying to explain what you're trying to say, like in different ways. And then you have that loud clock over your shoulder ticking like crazy. Like, obviously this is all about what the series is about, how to catch a family annihilator. And Coder putting him in this position of like, he's cornered there. Coder's got his arms crossed. Sometimes Coder will sit there and just stare at him in silence. And then you got that clock ticking. And this guy just doesn't seem to be understanding what you're trying to say, even though Coder understands it. You know, he's doing this tactic. I'm going to make him super uncomfortable and agitated.
the passion, I didn't feel it in my heart anymore. Like, I really can't like just give you a definitive answer other than that.
And isn't that just telling too? He asked why the passion was gone, and he says, I just didn't feel it in my heart anymore. Like, that is just so cold. The mother of your children, and you feel nothing in your heart for her anymore. That was truth that came out, in my opinion, from Chris.
It's like my heart wasn't in it.
I gotta tell you, that sounds like a load of horseshit to me.
Gotta tell you, it sounds like a load of horse shit after he just goes into all this, like, explaining, right, being bio girl, then get a divorce. He can't. He needs the money. That's the thing. That's the thing that it comes down to. He couldn't get a divorce. He had a plan to make money off of this scheme.
I know.
What about the girls?
Bella and Celeste are the light of my life. I'd do anything for those girls. I'd step in front of a bullet so for a train for those girls.
I would step in front of a bullet in front of a chamber for those girls. That always stuck out to me because a gunshot was heard by a neighbor hours before Shanann got home. And people say things, well, what does it matter? None of them were killed by a gunshot. Well, it matters because the neighbor, you know, stated to myself after I reached out to her, because her name was in the discovery. Guess I should have redacted her name. That was an unusual thing that took place in an HOA neighborhood. And it stood out to her. So that's why she called it into this tip line. The girls were home with Chris when the gunshot was heard. It was right down the road from them that they found the bullet casings. And we have a whole live on that. Check out the playlist. You'll see it. So interesting that he says I would step in front of a bullet in front of a chamber for those girls when there's a gunshot that was reported. I don't know. Do you guys think that that's interesting, or is it just me? Right. Well, you didn't help those girls when they were right. You take them in your truck with you and you drive out to Servy. Why?
It doesn't add up to me, then why did the spark die?
The relationship between me and Shanann has nothing to do with the love I have for these girls. I mean, the love for these girls, they're the light of my life. I would do anything for them.
Mm-hmm.
But me and Shanann talked about, like, if we separated or if we stay together, like, what's best for the kids? Like, do we stay together for the kids? That, you look it up, it doesn't work that way. Like, it might cause more issues for the kids later on down the road with their psyche or personality or something. They know when they get older, they see, like, oh, mom and dad don't sleep in the same room anymore, like, what's going on, type thing.
Okay. If you had to guess, if you had to put your finger on it, if you had to, point to two people that are hot and heavy, that have kids that they love, what happened?
I mean, you can't take the kids into the factor because, like, when the love for your...
I do, Cindy. I think that that's a possibility because Shanann's flight was delayed. So I think that people involved in the plan thought that he was backing out. When Chris is in his prison interview, he says, I'm not even sure if her flight was really delayed or not. And they say to him, like, yes, it was. So it was something that was on his mind for a while. Was that flight delayed? I just think that it's way too coincidental that gunshots are heard, that bullet casings are found right before Shanann gets home. And then these children and Shanann obviously end up dead. But we're at an hour and a half, guys. I think we're going to stop it. Unfortunately, we got derailed by people in chat who want to point out Shanann as a mother instead of focusing on this interview that we're supposed to be focusing on. Hopefully next live. I'm glad you guys think it's interesting because I think that it has something to do with something, Oh, cool. Okay. But yes, guys. So yeah, we're at an hour and a half. Gonna end it for now. There is, let's see how much left in this interview. Around like 15-ish minutes for this one. There's still another part with Coder. So I have to upload the other half, which is another, I don't know, hour or so interview long. Yeah, if you guys got here late, just rewind because there was stuff that took place before people started derailing our conversations. Again, I'm open to everyone's opinions and I don't mind answering questions. I just don't think the way that Shanann mothered the children had anything to do with her death. And I don't think that she deserved to be killed just because she could have had Munchausen by proxy. We don't know that for sure. And I'm not stating that she did. But somebody who has a disorder needs help. They don't need shame. It's something, if she had that, she couldn't help it. And, she needed help. And that's only if she had it. Nobody knows that for sure. It's a mental illness. So is depression and anxiety, PTSD, all mental illnesses. Do we shame people for having those mental illnesses? All right. So again, just hit the like button. And I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate my moderators trying to help out with chat and kind of trying to settle conversations in chat that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. There's plenty of channels out there that want to shame and bash Shanann. this, unfortunately, for people who are looking for that here, it's not going to be found here. There's a lot of people who've decided to make content off of acting like they knew her on a doctor level, like they can diagnose her. So again, if you want to talk about that, go to those other channels. If you want to look at the case and other people who are possibly involved, then you're at the good place to be. So, all right, guys, again, thank you to those who donated. I appreciate you guys. And anybody who hit the thumbs up and just participated in the live chat, I appreciate you too. Roxanne, you have a wonderful night. Florida Bass Fishing, Being Bio Girl, Allison, Jay, all my moderators. Oh, Dustin just popping in. Blessings, folks. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Adrian, I appreciate you all. And again, I will say, I'm not opposed to looking at other angles. I'm just stating I've looked at all those angles, including, Shanann's faults, and it just never led me to answers of why this crime took place. The only way that I can say that her actions may have led to this is by saying that NK used all that stuff as fuel to manipulate and spin her web. So if she cheated, NK was using that to say to Chris, look what she's doing. Who cares what we do? Screw her, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I want to focus on our next stream. And again, I don't want you guys to think you can't share your thoughts, but I'm just saying, let's focus on the topic at hand, please. So we'll talk tomorrow night. I'm going to go live again, probably on Madeline Soto's read through of those documents. People have asked when I was going to do one of those again. So please watch that. If you want to join me tomorrow night, it'll probably be around the same time as tonight. And then we always do a deep dive into the Watts case weekly. So usually on Thursday nights. So it'll be another hour and a half discussion. And we can kind of dig into all that as well. So we're still continuing this FBI interview. And look at Chris with his hands up right now, trying to explain himself. You can't. Yeah, I don't think we should be judging someone who lost their life. What? And Kay had a way prettier face? Naturally pretty. Huh? Are people just trying to troll now? Nell, I know you always comment and you're not a troll. You comment even on other cases. So I'm not saying you're trolling. That's the first I've heard anybody say that her face was pretty and naturally pretty. It's very masculine to me. And I like men, so nothing wrong with a masculine face, but I just don't know. I don't know. Again, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So we'll leave it at that. So good night, everybody. I appreciate you. And we'll talk tomorrow. So join me tomorrow night, guys.